I just wanted to jump in here real quick. So I just made a quick post about somatic tracking for your emotions. And so, hi. I just wanted to jump in here real quick. I just made a quick post about somatic tracking for your emotions. And I just kind of wanted to jump in and make video because sometimes that's easier for some people to listen to. So I was recently reading The Way Out by Alan Gordon. Somebody had recommended it to me, and I did like the book. I liked his writing style. It was easy and simple to read. And he talked about somatic tracking in there. And it reminded me, or it like kind of clicked with me that that's an easy way to describe the emotional process that I've talked about a lot is somatic tracking for your emotions. So if you are familiar with somatic tracking, you'll kind of already understand this. And if you're not, there's a lot of articles about it. I made a post just today, like just now, and put a great link that kind of explains it, two links in there. And of course, you can Google it yourself or YouTube it and find it. I really like how Alan Gordon describes it. He just has like a gentle, easygoing way of describing it. So I'm going to kind of describe it too. So with our emotions, it is to somatic track them. So somatic tracking, to give you a quick snapshot, is like dropping in and observing pain. Usually it's used with pain, but like pain sensations. And it's doing it in a certain way. It's like not with the intention of making them go away, but it's doing it with a lightness, a curiosity, and just observing them. And like in his book, I kind of kept it open, like he said, keeping safety in mind. And if you're doing it with like the sense of trying to get, speaking about pain still, trying to get the sensations to go away, it reinforces the pain signal. So it is about how you're going about doing it. So much of this with our bodies is about like the intention. So that is important to know. And so he had put in this, and it's so interesting because I did the exact same thing, is that he said the first time he did it, he was just very curious. Like he just he was noticing his pain as he began to observe it. It began to change, and then his back pain went away. The next time he did it, he was doing it with a means to an end. He said he wanted to get rid of the pain. Yeah, I'm reading out of the book. And he said the harder we try to get rid of our pain, the more we enforce that it's dangerous. So it's so interesting that he says this, because it's the same thing is true when we somatic track for our emotions. And Kim Duramo says the same thing. And I think it's just so interesting because I've read like lots of different things, and like so many of them parallel, and like people, we all learn the same thing. We say it in a little bit different ways, but it's like the same base idea. So basically, when we're doing this, it's you want to go into it with the same way every time. Like you're just observing. And what I think is tricky about it, like he said, his pain went away the first time, and sometimes we will notice those things happening, like my pain went away, or my emotion dissolved, or this thing happened. It's hard not to like do it the next time with that expectation. But it's just to like even make a note to yourself, make a note card, make a note in your phone, like just to go back into that observation mode. Because yes, when we do it with that force and that expectation and whatnot, it's not the same process anymore. So anyway, so with our emotions, it's like you're feeling a lot of fear, for example, because fear is a big one with pain, but with chronic illness, you would just, even if you're having a lot of thoughts about fear, you wouldn't actually reject the thoughts or the story or anything, but you would just shift your attention into the body and just observe the sensations of fear. Now, that's not always comfortable, and I'm not going to promise you that it's going to be very impactful, though, and especially over time. And you do this, again, with a lightness and a curiosity, and also because it is very, very nurturing to the body. Like, that's probably, like, one of the biggest reasons to do it. In the article that I linked in the post, Alan Gordon says this about somatic tracking. It feels wonderful just to be checked in on. It makes you feel cared about and attended to and can remind you that you matter in this world. Many of us don't check in on ourselves, and this subtle self-neglect can actually have many physical consequences. Again, such a parallel between like what I learned with like Dr. Kim Duramo, that this presencing our symptoms and ourself is a great act of self-care and nurturance for our body. So I just love it when I see like these parallels with different people discovering the exact same thing. So he also goes on to say, neuroscientists have found that mindfully attending our bodily sensations can actually shrink the fight or flight center of our brains. Furthermore, this practice enables us to have better control over our brain's processing of pain and emotions. So I find that interesting because I'm not hearing a lot of people talking about doing this with emotions yet. I'm sure that's coming. So, yeah, when you attend your physical sensations mindfully, without fear, without judgment, and without motive, not only are you communicating safety, you're giving yourself the message that you deserve to be treated in a loving way. So all of that, I concur 100%. Like I absolutely, and it all applies for emotions. So I want to go a little bit more into the emotions because the emotions are a little bit probably trickier than the pain part. Because what happens with, so in Alan Gordon's book, he wrote about, he was on a plane, and now Alan Gordon doesn't talk about somatic tracking for emotions. It's me talking about somatic tracking for emotions. He talked about a little story about he was on a plane and he had back pain still at the time. He was going through the process of releasing that and healing that. But he got in a plane and he ended up by the window, and the person in the middle fell asleep, so he felt like he couldn't get up and like stretch his back and stuff. So he felt trapped, and that's like a danger signal to the brain. So his pain started to rise. And the fear of the feeling of trapped, right? So he tried all this stuff to sit different. He was like sitting on his jacket and putting something behind his back for lumbar support, and nothing was working. His fear and his feeling of trapped were mounting. And I made a little post about this, but I just want to like say it verbally too, is that he did have the option of somatic tracking his emotions, the fear and the trapped feeling, and having a different result. Now, he wasn't aware of that option, and I'm not knocking Alan Gordon because none of us, we just don't know what we don't know, and I didn't know about it till I learned it either. So I'm not knocking him, just like using that story as an illustration that was also an option. He was on the plane. He felt like he couldn't get out. There was an opportunity for the somatic tracking of emotions. Now, what happens with emotions that makes them a little bit trickier is, again, like in that example, is like he felt trapped, so his immediate reaction is, let me get out of this situation of being trapped. And like that's actually okay because our emotions like drive us and like bring us, towards somewhere that's safe, for example. And that's one of the purpose of emotion. But there is also that alternative option. Like if we don't have the option of getting out of the situation, is to do the processing for it, the somatic processing. Dropping in. I always close my eyes. It's always so much easier for me to sense things when I close my eyes. Drop in, observe the sensations of the fear and the trapped. Now, you don't have to do it for a really long time. You can do it for whatever period of time is comfortable. You can do it for 20 seconds. You can do it for a minute. It doesn't have to be 25 minutes or anything because that can be really, really overwhelming. So you could drop in and you can say it out loud. I mean, that might be, every person will be a little bit different. You can say it in your head, but you can just be like, oh, I feel like fear rising up my throat. I feel a tight clenching in my stomach. I feel burning in my throat. I feel, sometimes it helps just to say it out loud. I feel a fluttery in my stomach. Maybe you don't have words for all of it. Just sensing it is okay too. It's something that will sort of keep fine-tuning as you go. There's no perfect way to do it. So, I have been doing this practice for I don't know how many years it's been because this year will be my 6th year of being chronic illness free. I would say like in June. So I don't know exactly when I started this. It was before I was completely chronically ill free. So more than 6 years that I've been doing this. And yes, the process kind of evolves. And but I want to say this, like, don't feel like that doing this for longer is better. When I first started, I actually did it for longer periods of time. And then I think it was listening to a video that was like, you can just do this for 20 seconds. I actually found the 20-second little burst to be a bit more impactful. And so I switched that. But yeah, I would do it for, I don't know, maybe a few minutes or something. But that mentality can get us stuck a lot. Like, we always have to push, push, push. But what I actually noticed after having done both sides of it, like doing it for a longer period and a shorter, is that after going for a long period, it lost, like, I think that I maybe began to resist or something again. Like, it was not as effective as doing it for short amounts. So when I do it now, I still do it for short amounts of time. Like, I don't time myself, but I'm guessing it's 30 seconds or something. Like, it's not real long. So I just want to give a few more examples of this, because it's with the emotions, it's just a little bit trickier, because, like, I'll give you another example. Like, say that you're and it's even still, having done it for a long time, I still get tripped up by it, because again, I think that, like, we are sort of wired, like, we feel this feeling and it's supposed to drive us to some sort of action, but, like, in our modern world, that's not always, like, there's not always a solution. So for example, like, feeling unsafe, our driven reaction is to go seek safety. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's like a natural reaction. But if it's going on for like a long time, and like, you're like, I still don't feel safe, and I still don't feel safe, I still don't feel safe. Or you keep trying to, like, how do I make myself feel safe? And how do I make myself feel safe? I would say this: process and sit with and somatic track the feeling of unsafety. And continue to do that. And you will notice something really interesting changing with how safe you feel. And then the other thing with emotions that is interesting, and it's probably similar to pain, is that emotions do come up in cycles. So, like, you might notice, like, oh, a lot of this despair. I'm not even really feeling despair anymore. And then all of a sudden, a week or two or a month later, you just get hit with a wave of despair. And then that can feel really, really discouraging. And if you don't know to expect it in advance. And so I had learned to prepare myself in advance. Like, it is going to come up again, and that's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. It's like the next thing coming up. In his book, Alan Gordon talked about setbacks. With pain, it might be a little bit different thing, but you could probably use the exact same mentality that, like, pain is, I haven't had as much experience with pain, but, like, coming up through in cycles or layers. But, like, emotions for sure do. So I've never used the word setback. It's like, it's at first I didn't understand this this whole process, and so it would be very discouraging, like, oh, it's back again. But it was like, through continuing to listening to these principles, I began to understand, okay, actually it's another layer, and actually it's coming up so it can come out. And so I could actually even look forward to it once I got kind of used to it, like, oh yes, the next layer is coming through, and then it started to process easier. But I do never have used that word setback, and I will not use that word. I don't think it, and I don't even think that it is. I feel like that's really, really discouraging, and I don't even think it is the truth. I don't think it is a setback. Your body is just processing it, and thank goodness it doesn't process it all at one time, because I don't know if we could really handle the full strength of, like, all of the pain or all of the emotion at one time. So anyways, just, yeah, lots of things with emotions. It's then I want to talk about one last thing, and then I'll be done. But, like, the stories we get caught up in, this is the one thing that still, after doing through all that, is still harder for me to catch. But I will almost always eventually catch myself, but not always right away. So this is a part of the, like, just the training process in doing this. But, like, there will be a story, like, or I should say an event or something. Like, Just use a simple example. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You're mad about it. Whatever. Call your friend, vent about it, whatever. But say it, like, sometimes that's it. You're done with it, right? But, like, sometimes, let's just say, whatever event happened and you're still upset about it, like, for a little while, a week later, and you're still kind of fuming about it, you can just, like, shift your attention into the body. Again, you don't have to reject the story, because, like, if you try to reject the thoughts and the story, they get louder. That's what I found over and over and again. It wasn't so much about, like, rejecting anything or even, like, rejecting the mind, because it just gets louder and it just pushes back against you. But it was just like a shift in attention, like, and sometimes I'd have to remind myself, you know what, I'm just gonna do it for 5 minutes. I'm just gonna shift my attention for 5 minutes. Like, nothing, I'm not, like, saying I'm not going to think about this again or anything, but shift my attention, drop in and just sense in to all the anger and frustration sensations that I'm feeling in my body. You might be surprised as you continue to do this practice, like, what happens. Again, the intent is more like what Alan Gordon was saying. It's a way of caring for yourself. It's demonstrating safety to the body. It's like a way of self-care. This is highly nurturing. But it can be very, very interesting what happens. I'm hesitating, like, to think if I should say more. I'm not going to, because I think sometimes self-discovery is the best. You just practice it and see what happens with that story in your head. And just start to notice yourself and, like, stay open to observing what this practice does for you and continue to practice. And this is, like, the practice that I used very, very consistently for both my symptoms and my emotions that completely regulated my whole entire system. I am not against brain retraining programs, but I didn't use one. And I didn't know about them, or I absolutely would have signed up for one. I never, in all of my Google searching, I just never came across one. And I don't even know if it was popular back then. I don't know. And so I'll just say, I would have absolutely done it, but this had the same effect. And it had the same effect in a relatively short period of time. And so, and there's been many other people who have had the same experience. But so anyways, wanted to share that somatic tracking for your emotions. Please let me know if you have questions or if you get stuck with it, because I know with emotions, like I said, emotions a little bit, like, we can get pulled into them, and, like, with our thoughts a little bit too. And it's not the same thing, I think, with our thoughts and our emotions. It's not really about the content of them. Like, we might say feel unworthy, and then we think, like, we almost believe that to be true, that we are unworthy, but it really is just like a reflection of some of our thoughts and, like, experiences, but it's not actually true. The same with our thoughts. Like, we'll have certain thoughts, but they're not necessarily objective reality. But really, when it comes to our health, it's not about the content of them, it's about what effect they're having in the body, if that makes sense. And so you can do this with your thoughts too. Like, you keep having this repetitive thought, you can somatic track that. You can drop into your body and just observe the sensations. Like, what effect is that thought having on your body? And just notice what happens over time. Not probably in one day, but just notice over time what begins to happen with that thought. Because again, it's not the content of either. It's the physiological response. So, let me know if you have questions or if you get stuck on something, because I've been doing this for a long time. I have, there's a lot of little things that I've learned from doing this that can help you, but I don't want to, like, put all of that in here and get really, really complicated. But all right, I hope that helps.